Hey YouTube, let's do this.
Back to nature, climbing higher. Woods are thick, hiking alone. Hear a tree crack, loud as gunfire. Stops you cold, chill to the bone. Hear the growling, turn to howling. Something's prowling just out of sight. Beast in the night. Beast in the night. The forest has fallen silent. The mountains dark. The moon is full. Catch the black shape of a giant, 8 feet tall, unbelievable. Your heart is pounding, huge steps are bounding. Your hope is drowning in the fading light. Beast in the night. Beast in the night. Oh hell yeah. Run for your life. Step it up. Your fear is growing. Red eyes are glowing. You might die knowing those folk were right. Beast in the night. Beast in the night. Beast in the
And hey everybody, welcome to Squatch Talk. I'm Pat. Where's the camera? I don't know. What's up? How's everybody doing tonight? Hope everybody's well. Thanks for being here. Yeah, we're gonna talk about this documentary tonight. 100%. The Alaskan Coastal Sasquatch. Um, I finally got around to watching it, and late to the party. I always am, but we're gonna talk about that. First of all, before we get into that, sorry about the marathon thing. Like, I really tried there. I really did. I did 2 nights in a row last week. The marathon never really came to fruition. I just did 2 shows in a row. And that Tuesday night show took a lot out of me. It was a crazy show. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. It's the next video over. Just one of those up and down shows, man, that is like started out this and ended like this, right? Like separate craziness. It was fun, and Wednesday came. I had nothing in me. Thanksgiving happened. Couldn't do a show. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I just couldn't muster up anything for a show, man. So sorry about the marathon, but here we are on a Tuesday night, which we normally are not on. Um, but I'm kind of trying to get back to that Tuesday, Friday thing, or at least one of those two. So anyway, again, late to the party. I haven't talked to Alex in I don't know, several months. Uh-oh. I can't. No, I can't. No. That okay. Was not expecting that. I should have been, but I wasn't. I haven't talked to Alex in several months. Uh, I can't, Alex has been on my show several times actually, as a guest and panel member. Um, Tuesday. It is Tuesday, right? Yes, I'm pretty sure it's Tuesday. Uh, and he's been on, and he's a friend of the show. Cool guy. I've always had a lot of respect for Alex. Um, and so I was so I knew about this upcoming documentary, about the Alaska, going up there doing stuff in Alaska, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool, man. Alex is out there adventuring, so I knew that was coming, and then I heard some talk about it. People were saying good things about it, and I'm like, well, it popped up in my my homepage today on YouTube, and I happened to have the day off, and I'm like, well, let's watch that. Like, I'm gonna watch that. Let's see what this is all about. And wow, wow. All I can say is wow. Like, it sucked me in. It kept me right there with them the whole time. It was just a fantastic documentary, not smothered in Bigfoot sauce. So there's a Bigfoot component, there's a Bigfoot angle. Those things are there, and they are there in a fair way, like a real way. Because Bigfoot sauce, remember, Bigfoot sauce is just narrative. Bigfoot sauce is a little deception. Like, Bigfoot sauce isn't a good thing. Bigfoot sauce is a bad thing. So whenever I refer to Bigfoot sauce, it's not a good thing. There's a Bigfoot angle, a Bigfoot component, like it's there. But this documentary, man, is about people, it's about a place, and it's about an angle of the phenomena. And it was so well balanced with that I mean, I just have to, after watching it today, it's one of those things, man. It's like, I gotta talk about this. Um, Again, Alex has been on my show. It'd be interesting to see if I conjure him up in chat tonight. I have a funny way of doing that when I talk about people, but we'll see. Um, Otherwise, dude, I'll read, like, I haven't talked to Alex today. Obviously, earlier I said I haven't talked to Alex in a while. But at some point, I would love to have him on to talk about this, and and that whole experience they had up there. Now, it was part one. So in the documentary for this like this documentary, the Alaskan there goes the phone. The Alaskan Coastal Sasquatch. It's just part one. So part two's coming. Just heads up. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this because, I mean, I'm not doing anything here tonight by promoting this documentary. There might be a handful of people that go and watch it tonight because I'm talking about it, but it has 390,000 views already, which is so rough, basically 400,000 views, pretty much, you know, four times what the channel subscription base is. So whenever you blow your sub base of views like four times, you're doing something right. Um, and again, late to the party. This came out 5 days ago. So I guess part two is coming soon. Um, I don't know exactly when, honestly. Um, I would guess within the next few days to a week. I can't imagine them stretching it out much further than that unless it was a production issue. That they just focus on producing the first part, and then sort of like season two of The Walking Dead or whatever, like the second half of a season of any show, you're still producing, and so we'll see what happens. But yeah, like I was blown away in so many ways. And I want to have conversations about it. So please, you talk to me. We'll bounce off each other now. I might take some calls. We'll see what happens. Maybe Alex will show up again. When I talk about people, I tend to conjure them up, but I have no idea what Alex is up to right now because I haven't talked to him. But if not tonight, eventually I will get him on the show to discuss this documentary. So it does take place in Alaska, in a bay, an Alaskan bay, beautiful, gorgeous mountainside, like everything you would dream of visually. Um, and this dude buys some property there, builds a cabin, and on day one, there's there's high strangeness, something stuff he can't explain, you know. So that's kind of how it starts. Eventually, he gets a hold of Alex. They come up there and they produce this documentary. Um, and along the way, we get to meet this interesting guy, Rob Roy, um, who's somewhat of a Bigfoot guy. I don't know how he's connected to Scott. I think it is the guy that owns the property. Somehow he's connected to it. Introduced Rob Roy. He's kind of like the um he's sort of the guy to follow in this whole story of outside of the production team. And they sort of focus on him. They have him around a lot more than the property owner, and he's an interesting character. Again, this is a people story. um at the end of the day, it's not a Bigfoot story, it's a people story. Bigfoot is an element. And so to me, like, that is sort of the perfect middle of the road way to approach it and not smother it in Bigfoot sauce, because Bigfoot's there the whole time. It's sort of lurking in the background, as it should be, as it does in real life. It lurks in the background. And they did a wonderful job of the production team. It's not just Alex; it's Alex, his guys, and the Small Town Monsters crew all together did a really good job of making it about Bigfoot in a way that, again, wasn't unrealistic. It wasn't smothered in Bigfoot sauce. It wasn't smothered in BS. It was very honest, and it was the perfect documentary about Bigfoot, in my opinion. Um, just it blew my mind. It really did. And and I'm so glad that I watched it today and that I can talk about it tonight and then follow up on it either tonight or some other day. Because I love doing shows that are fresh, fresh things on my mind, fresh emotional experiences I came off of, And this was like an emotional experience because, again, they did such a great job of production and editing, filming, that it just tied together so beautifully. The production was just, uh, it was it was one of the most wonderfully produced things about Bigfoot I've ever seen. And there's been some good ones in the past, um, and there's some good ones floating around, but this was just something different. And I encourage everyone who has like, I don't care if you just take your cell phone out in the woods to produce content for your channel, at least follow the guidelines, at least follow the realism and honesty of what these guys did for this documentary. Um, Instead of smothering everything in Bigfoot sauce, you know, because they really didn't do that. And for that, I'm like super proud of them. Not that I'm the end all be all judge of any of this stuff. I'm just voicing my opinion. That's why I'm here tonight. So, um, so yeah, I mean, in the production, let me talk about the production. Oh my God. They used drone footage for cinematic, uh, visuals, cinematic optics, perfectly done. Just like it could not have been integrated better. And the really cool thing about the drone footage is that it's not just an insert, like a B-roll insert for the narrative of the documentary. It was actual real time. Like, they were using drones there themselves to film themselves where they were. So it's not just B roll, it's actual A roll. Like, they're like, talking about this peninsula, mountaintop peninsula, and they're actually up in that mountaintop peninsula and filming. And you see that, and then it cuts to the drone is showing that mountaintop peninsula from the air. So it's all real time stuff. I mean, that was beautifully done. Like, God, man, everybody get your shit together. Start filming stuff like that. It was inspiring. Um, Again, I mean, I'm not a professional videographer. I'm not a professional producer, but I've been around the block. I've been involved in some pretty high value production things in my time, and so, uh, you know, I would hope my opinion means something because of that experience. Um, I'm almost racing through this. I feel like, because I'm kind of excited. And again, I'm late to the party. This was released 5 days ago, and I didn't get to see it till today. So, um, anyway, uh, go check it out if you haven't seen it yet. Uh, it's it's really good. It sucks you in, like, and again, to be able to do the entertainment factor, without just smothering it in Bigfoot sauce, but yet you're still making it about Bigfoot. The angle is there, but there's no Bigfoot sauce. Um, that's hard to pull off. I mean, it's a tricky thing to weave, and they did. And I'm glad, because that's the way it should be. And, Bigfoot documentaries should be more like this and less like other things we've seen in the past. Um, and yeah, so sorry, I got the phone. Sorry about the hand thing, guys and gals. What did I think about the audio? Pretty neat. Like, pretty neat. There's some interesting audio in there, and I think some of that audio was a little bit of a tease for we're gonna get more of that audio, more of that same audio. Um, yeah, it was crazy. You had them; they were catching at night, remote audio devices they left out, in areas that they were kind of hanging out, around the upper fire pit and places like that, or even around the cabin. You hear these distant wood knocks, so they capture wood knocks um, that are either genuine or it's all a hoax. I mean, there's nothing in between. They were either banging on trees for the sake of content, or that's what happened, and there ain't no people around there. So, distant wood knocks. I say distant. I don't. eh, You know, they were a lot fainter than the ones I heard. And by the way, there's a strange component between me and Rob Roy had the same experience in different ways. Um, so yeah, some of that is fascinating, and then they played, some other weird kind of sounding shit, dude. Languagey stuff, sort of Sierra sound ish kind of thing going on. Um, there was some weird stuff, man. I mean, I trust Alex. I don't think for a minute Alex would, ever hoax or get hoaxed out there in that kind of place. So I you know, I take what he's presenting as, real presentation of what occurred, without other human influence. So I take him at his word, um, because what he's presenting is his word. So yeah, there's some interesting audio. There was a clip, with some kaplunks and some very strange sounding audio and then he fully admit it's probably sea lions. It's like, I don't know what a sea lion sounds like in the middle of the night. It was weird to me until you said that. I'm like, well, thanks for clarifying that. Again, being honest, being skeptical, covering your own ass. Like, thank God, finally, it's about time. So yes, the audio was very interesting, and I'm sure we're gonna hear more of it. Some of the other things. So they captured footage of humpback whales, like in this whole process. I mean, this is Alaska. This is that area. There are humpback whales. That come into these bays, and sure enough, they happen to capture some. They got beautiful footage of humpback whales from the drone. I'm talking like Nat Geo helicopter type shit you'd have seen 20 years ago. Like, I mean, and that was a really cool component. It again, it's not smothered in Bigfoot sauce. There's a people. It's a people story, and then it's a nature story. This place is gorgeous. It makes me want to go there. Like, I'm jelly, right? I'm totally fucking jelly. Um, and they're also using great equipment. Everything's in 4K. Like, if you watch it, you know, you watch it on a device, it's freaking gorgeous. Everything's like visually perfect. It blows my mind. The production was just fantastic, man. Yeah, seals. Seals or sea lions. I don't know. What's the difference? They kind of look similar, right? I don't know. I guess sea lions are bigger. But yeah, it's just good. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. Again, like I'm not here to promote it because like my small channel isn't going to offer much. Like there might, handful of people that, watch this video might, end up going and watching it. It's not like I'm going to contribute thousands and thousands of extra views. Um I'm just being honest. Again, I wear it on my sleeve. I'm doing that right now. It was really good. Go check it out. And I can't wait to talk to Alex and maybe some of the other guys. I'd love to talk to, you know, the people involved about it more because it is very interesting and it's different. It's a fresh breath of air, man. It really is. I think that's what has kind of affected me the most is that you get bogged down in the same old, you know, idiots, boots on the ground, BS, Bigfoot sauce, like, you know, and there's something very profound that Alex said, right around the middle of the documentary or so. He said, uh, I'll paraphrase it. He's basically like, there's no way in hell we're gonna get the jump on these things out here. We are completely outclassed. The advantage is to them, not us. Like we are at the greatest disadvantage tenfold. It was something like that. I wish I could remember the quote, but he said that in the middle of part one when they go on this trek up the peninsula hill, and he's like, we are extremely disadvantaged, even more so than usual. And I'm like, got that, bam, that sums it up perfectly. Like, thank you. You're out there looking for Bigfoot, and you fully admit you're at a huge disadvantage marching around through the woods. That really, really struck me um, as a moment of pure honesty and admitting. He's basically admitting, he's like, there's no way we're gonna like boots on the ground get them out here. I don't read minds, but that's the way I took it. you know, I took that statement in that way. Is a kind of a full admission of there ain't no boots on the ground gotcha moments happening in this freaking place. And to be honest with you, I think that applies to every place that Bigfoot is ever seen. Because they don't just go strolling around through miles and miles of open desert or meadow. Which would be an easy gotcha moment, right? No, they take cover. Um, yeah, so I did again. I watched this today. Like, actually, I had a few things going on today. I had some things I had to balance out, even though I had the day off. But I was going to do a show tonight, no matter what, and then it turned into, well, I got to talk about this, and at that point, I only had so much time to like do my domestic things and put a show together. And in that time, I was like, if I like Alex will see this at some point because I've mentioned his name 500 times. Um, but I'm not gonna try and like rush and reach out to Alex and get him on and like that'll just happen when it happens. So no, Alex has not been invited tonight. I haven't talked to him, so it'll happen when it happens. But I'd like to get your opinions. I may open up the phone lines and we could talk about it or anything that you want to talk about. I really did just want to like throw it out there that like, look, if you haven't seen this, it's really good. It's very entertaining. They suck you in, man. You're there with them. It's that kind of thing. I wasn't expecting that. I mean, I love Alex and I love Small Town Monsters, and they've done some really great stuff in the past, But this was the best thing that I've ever seen come out of that production company, and Alex. Like, even though they've done great things in the past, like this was a step more. Like, this was really genuine and honest and compelling, and they just bring you along for the ride. Like, so the production is like, for Bigfoot shit, is fucking out of this world, man. Like, it's something like. I'm proud of. I say that as somebody that's. Uh, hello, hello. Check, check, 1, 2. Well, I don't know. Okay, I'm back. No, yeah, yes, no. Am I here or not? Right. Yeah, I got PD. And I keep freezing. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I have my camera turned off. So, right, audio, no video. Gotcha. All right. Well, let's bring the video back. See what happens. Yes, PD is the quintessential dog man. Don't you know? I'm the Amarillo monster. Bam. We back. Yes, yes. No. Yes, no. Oh, the camera's sliding. Anyway, we should be back. I'm not getting my notifications that I'm not on air. What's going on? Uh, yeah, I gotta get a new computer, but maybe it will be. I just need to know that we are live. Okay, let's open it up. Sorry, guys. Sorry about the finger. Like, I hate that. All right. Mm, boom. There you go. If you'd like to call in and talk about what I've been talking about or anything else, feel free. There's the number. And we will have a conversation. I gotta let's see. What time is it? It's almost 9. All right. Yeah. We got time. Goddamn sea lions. They mess everything up. But yeah, man, I can't wait to have more discussion about it. It's just really good stuff. And I'm pissed at myself for not watching it 5 days ago, but life life gets in the way, man. Today it did not. Today life did not get in the way. I moved everything out of the way for life. Um let's see. I told you I conjure people up. It's just talk about just drop their name 500 times in a row and you can conjure some people up. All right, so let's do this. Let's do this. Everybody hold off. Everybody hold off. Let's get rid of that. And back to comments. Hold on. What's up, everybody? Let's see if this works. It might. Okay, there's nothing there. Hold on, guys. Copy. I believe that's correct. There we go. Bam. All right, we're gonna try that. See if we can get Alex in. Alex just hit me up, and I sent him the link. So if I can get him in, that'd be cool. And maybe we could still take calls. I don't know. Just we'll talk to Alex for a minute and see what happens. So every notification that happens on my phone is coming through the Bluetooth speaker. It's not cool. Okay, I'll get a notification there. Awesome. So yeah, I sent the link out. That Alex reached out to me. I sent the link to him, and so here we go. Here we go. There he is. We're gonna bring him in. Add to stream.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, dude.
Can you hear me okay?
I can. Absolutely.
I was at the grocery store and Tristan sent me a message and said you were doing a show on the film. And I was like, oh, cool. And then I was watching a little bit, but out in the middle of nowhere, rural area I live, I don't have service. So I basically couldn't check it until I got home. And then I tuned in as I was having some dinner. So.
Well, that's cool, man. It's a good thing, man, because I mean, I just tore it apart, bro. Like,
so the debate starts.
I mean, that boat, the boat coming through the shot that was clearly CGI, man, 100% CGI. The moss.
I will say though, that was staged. The boat thing, we had to do that a couple times, because it's like it's tough with the drone to try and get things to work. What is wrong with my keyboard here? Why are you doing this?
Sorry, yeah, I know. I've done work with boats, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
And that's Eli. Eli does most of. There was a couple drone shots that I did in there, but Eli Watson, he does most of our drone stuff.
Really?
And yeah, so he's really good.
Eli was flying most of the scenes.
Most of them, because I have my DJI Mavic. I have is the first edition. I've had it since like 2017.
Yeah.
So the picture quality isn't as great. I mean, it's still 4K, but compared to his, which is only like a year or two old, just in that time frame how much the picture quality got better. So we end up using his a lot. There were a few, like when we looked for that cabin, that was with my drone, but it's like kind of grainy at this point. So I just have steered away from using it for the most part. The whales
But
were CGI.
yeah.
Definitely.
But well, what was the other drone then?
So the other drone, actually, that'll be in part two. That was a Parrot drone with a thermal on it. So it was like, oh gosh, I do not know it was the property owners. It was a thermal drone. We used it for a little bit, and we talk about it in part two, which I'm currently working on. I was actually working on it today before I went to the grocery store before Tristan hit me up. But it was really difficult there with the thermal drone because it's so thick in the trees, and we did this experiment. We had like one of us walk in the trees, and you could barely even tell the person was there because that's like a lower grade drone. I don't want to say lower grade; it was probably like $2,000, but it's not like some of the ones I've seen that are like 15 grand. Just the really insane ones.
Yeah, I agree. It actually is lower grade for a aerial thermal platform.
Yeah, definitely.
Your starting point is $2,000.
Right. So, like,
Yeah.
I know my buddies Tate and those guys with the Bluff Creek Project. They had a guy out there, Damon Irons. I don't know if he's a Bluff Creek Project member or not, but he's like a commercial pilot. But he has one of these really insane drones, and they filmed what they think is a black bear in Laird Meadow near Bluff Creek for like 20 minutes, and we're like circling around it, and it's like you could spot this thing from quite a ways away.
A mile away.
That's the kind of thing I would love to get out there, but obviously that's you got to either know somebody or really have a budget for that.
I'll chip in.
Yeah, because that I mean,
and
I would wonder because just that area is so thick. That's the problem we had was just how thick it was with all that moss and being a rainforest. Whereas the Bluff Creek area seems a little more sparse, so it's a little bit easier, I think, to see through like the tree canopy. But I don't know. I'm not like, I know you're bigger into the drones, so I'm not like, that's not, we mostly do it for the cinematic stuff or even just scouting. Like when you throw a drone up just to see where you're headed, it's actually really nice to know, oh, here's the snow line or there's a pond up here, whatever the case may be. And that's a lot of the time what we use that for, aside from just getting those incredible shots.
And you also got incredible production value shots. And honestly, Alex, like, I want to talk to you about that for a minute because that was so freaking huge to me because it's easy to roll in B footage and everyone does that. There's nothing wrong with that. B footage is what it is, right? It's optically telling a story that you're narrating, right? It's just a part of bringing people in. But you guys were actually providing cinematic shots of areas you were standing in at right in that moment. And that I've never seen before. I've never seen anything like that in the Bigfoot world, man. That was huge. I just thought that was a high level production as you're talking about the peninsula. Well, you could see it in the cinematic shot. And it is this ridge, this vertical terrain uprising peninsula. Dude, I mean, that tied it together even more beautifully than B-roll ever could. So kudos to you and your team for that, man.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I don't think it would be right. You like, how would you do B-roll for something like that? I mean, I see a lot of these videos where even in other topics, because a lot of times I've started now, especially in the past, watching stuff that's not really in the Bigfoot world, just other channels and how much B-roll gets used. Because I use some of these B-roll sites too. So I'll notice people using the same types of footage. You know, if you need like generic footage of like a scientist in a lab or something that, you know, I just don't have access to that. It's just so easy to use just some B-roll to get like a filler shot. And I notice people using a lot of that stuff. But it just, when you are in a location like that, I mean, not having a drone there would have honestly been a crime, you know, just how scenic it was. And I mean, you just point the camera really in any direction out there and you get something incredible. And I you know, it's absolutely one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in my life, bar none. And the most rugged and remote as well. It was like an over an hour boat ride just to get there. And you're going over these like giant cliffs and bays and you're seeing seals and sea lions everywhere. In the second part, we also will show footage of orcas we got. like on our way out on the last day, we saw orcas. I mean, we saw mountain goats. We were able to fly like drone right near mountain goats
Wow.
naturally. And even the bears, I mean, it's like Ron, he was getting that with his, like, I don't know what Canon camera was, a small waterproof Canon, or was it a Canon? Yeah, I think it was a Canon. He's zooming in on these black bear. We're just watching like 5 black bear eating on the hill, kind of above us as we're waiting to get picked up by the boat. It was kind of surreal, actually.
Well,
We
that
just
that
sort of
happened.
watched them do their thing.
That happened also when you did the in part one. You did the glacier approach.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually in part 2 we come up upon a black bear tracks, like we hiked way higher up on the mountain, like beyond the snow line, and there were fresh black bear tracks. I mean, he either was pushed out by us or was there, mere hours before we were there, because there was a lot of snow melt, because this was last May, or this May, so May of 2022.
Yeah.
So it was like right when Alaska's transitioning from winter to summer. There's no in between. It just goes like boom, one to the other. Really, we saw it like when we landed, it was all gray. By the time we left in like end of May, it was all green. It was crazy to see, actually, because we went to other locations in Alaska after that. But the cabin itself, just where it is, just so remote. I mean, I don't know if you have any questions or anything. I'm happy to discuss any aspect of it.
Oh yeah, dude.
It's been like my personal favorite case I've ever worked on.
I'm full of questions and comments.
Go
it's
for
like, yeah. I mean, I'm wanting to talk to you about production, but let's talk about the human component, because, as I was saying in the beginning of the show, just so you know, I'll take you through it real quick. I was like, it's a people story, it's a nature story, and there's a Bigfoot element.
Yeah.
Right. So it's
And
not
that's very fair. Yeah.
It's not smothered in Bigfoot sauce, which is refreshing. But let's talk about Scott, and like you address it right off the bat. One day I got an email, and that one email led to what I watched today. That's pretty incredible, like, thing to happen from one email, man.
Yeah, it was literally the text. Like I literally just copied and pasted what he wrote and put it in like an effect that creates like a typing kind of thing.
Yes.
Because you could put up an email on screen and zoom in on it, but I don't think that's just visually dynamic. So yeah, he hit me up, and it was funny because it was actually like May of 2021, late April or May, and it was like a year later that we actually ended up going to Alaska. So there was like a full year between going into contact with him and then actually going, that I was always thinking about this. And I got to, speak to him pretty often, but he sent me the email. He actually originally is from the New England area. So I think that's how he kind of had seen one of my podcasts or something like that. And then, contacted me and was, lived literally where I live in New Hampshire. He lived like not that far from me for a while. He was in the military as well. And so that's why he was up here, and then went back to Alaska. His wife was originally from there, and I think he was deployed out there at some point to Alaska. They have their huge military presence up there. I know a ton of guys that have done, been up there, paratroopers, ski guys, whatever. They have Richardson, Elmendorf. It's a massive base. So yeah, came into contact with him. I get some of these emails every once in a while. I get tons of messages. People are like, oh, come check out this area. And, there's a lot of great stories, I'm sure, but you got to pick and choose. And this one just kind of felt different. So I reached out to him. I gave him a call, and he told me the full story. And he kept repeating, I'm an agnostic. I'm not a believer. And for folks that don't know, agnostic is, you're not fully on board with it. You're sort of, I think it's a pretty great term for Bigfoot, actually, the way a lot of people feel about Bigfoot. And he basically was like throwing witnesses at me saying, hey, talk to this person. I have a person I talked to one guy who was a former biologist, not former biologist, I guess retired would be more appropriate. And he was like, here, you want to talk to this guy? You want to talk to this guy? These people have had stuff happen, as if he was like trying to prove to me that, he was legit. I was, obviously skeptical at first. You have to be. But the more I talked to him and the more I talked to other people, it seemed pretty obvious that there was something weird going on there. And that's really how it went down. And we kept in touch and talking a lot. And then we were kind of discussing when to go out there. And I was hoping to get out even last summer, so summer of 2021, but we just couldn't make it happen. I mean, Alaska's a big undertaking. We were in a lot of other places filming, but I was just like, let's just do it right. And then Seth Breedlove of Small Town Monsters wanted to do an Alaskan documentary as well. So what we like to do is we'll couple these kind of trips where he'll do more of a film. Like he's doing a film called On the Trail of Bigfoot, the Last Frontier. And that, in my opinion, is probably the most expansive documentary about Bigfoot in Alaska that's ever been done, because it's just like mostly eyewitness stories, talking to folks that have had encounters. And they interviewed a ton of natives, like First Nations people, which was pretty crazy. And you know, the baby crying thing is really interesting because those tied together without us even knowing.
Right.
And,
With the sort of folklore or storytelling, right?
Yeah.
Older. Yeah. And that was an interesting little thing you guys threw in there with that. And
well, it was weird because he had sent me this audio, right? And that's before, I think it was right after we spoke the first time. He said he'd send me all this audio, and that audio was all found by David Ellis, who did the audio analysis. So, you know, he was with the NAWAC and the Olympic Project, kind of working with some of those guys. People had been out there the first summer, and then he was talking to David Ellis about the sound stuff, and David was finding all these weird sounds, and he did the classic thing where he loops it like 5 times, as David Ellis often does. And, you know, I talked to David about it. I'm like, you know, what do you think about this? Does this seem kind of legit? And he thought, yeah, I mean, this guy's not giving me any indication that it's weird. And a funny story, actually, from Rob Roy, who owns the Bigfoot Art Gallery, which is like a framing and matting store. But this guy has been in Bigfoot since the 90s. He actually, if you remember the website Bigfoot Encounters, or Bobby Short, if that name rings a bell. So it's like the first Bigfoot website out there, Bigfoot Encounters, a lot of the older stories. Rob Roy did the artwork for that. So he's been around the Bigfoot world. And gosh, where was this story even going? But basically, you know, they were
audio and all that. Rob,
Oh yeah, so Ron Moorhead, and you know, who's controversial. I still don't know if I'm 100% on board with the Sierra Sounds. I think there's a lot of the stuff Rob Roy, Ron Moorhead has said in the last few years are a little bit maybe more on the woo side for me. But apparently Ron Moorhead had heard these sounds and thought they were just his sounds that were being played out there, which I thought was kind of funny. That's the story that they had, apparently, that Ron Moorhead thought it was his. So whatever that says. But yeah, no, the audio is interesting, and just kind of talking to Scott and making it all happen logistically, getting up there was really interesting.
Well,
yeah.
Alex, like, sorry,
no, you're all good.
My phone's like keeps falling down. I gotta reposition it. That's why I turned my camera off. So yes, some of the stuff you played, the very intro, like the immediate intro, you know, you're throwing some audio out there, and some of it does sound like, I mean, it sounds like people out in the woods, but you can barely, you can't understand what they're saying. So there is some of that blah, 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 kind of stuff happening. Is that audio directly from that cabin area?
Yeah, all of it was recorded like in the immediate vicinity. They would either have audio recorders up in the woods, like right behind the cabin, kind of like what we did. I think we showed it at one point. We would like literally just nail it up in a tree. Or later on, Scott actually ended up getting an ARU, so it's like an autonomous recording unit. I forget the brand, but it's the one that it's like a green, it's like a OD green color, used by bird biologists to record, you know, different types of wildlife out there. They're used a lot by wildlife biologists. They're pretty pricey. It's like $400, I think, for one of them. But they work really great. Like Chris Spencer of the Olympic Project has rigged up his own, where you do like with a battery and it's in like an ammo can. Those are really cool. But these ones are obviously more or less budget friendly. So he would deploy these audio things and just run them for like a week at a time until they would come back to the cabin, because they can only really go there in the summer season. So when I say that for Alaska, that basically means like maybe late April to maybe early October. That's it. You can't really get out there in the winter months because the sea is too rough. So it's not advisable. Yeah. You have to have a really big boat. And I mean, his boat is like I'd say medium size, you know, it can fit.
Yeah, it is. It's not huge.
Yeah. It's like getting all these little bays. It's not like a cruiser or something like that. So,
oh, wow. That's interesting. So I get that for that, like for that kind of area.
Right.
It's just literally, it's like, no, it's the waters are too rough. You don't know what you're gonna get. You could capsize,
Like, actually, kind of on that note, what happened was, so we did that recreation of that thermal footage, which is extremely inconclusive, and it was just like a line they saw, but it was weird because there was impressions in that same area where
It
they were
was
filming.
yeah, I didn't
It was
understand that.
weird.
I almost thought it was a technical glitch. I'm like, it was
Yeah, I
way
mean,
too defined. It was
it
so
was
defined.
it
Yeah.
was so weird because the guy who
Yeah.
recorded it literally was legally almost blind, which I
Go
think is
figure.
it's like you can't make this shit up,
Yeah. Right.
and Scott, and he said in the thing, he was like, I didn't even think he was seeing anything, so I didn't even bother to look at it. And then they looked at it later, but when we did the recreation, we couldn't get the footage to transfer. And then I was trying to Scott's last trip out there this past season was going to be like late September, and I was trying to
Yeah.
get him to get that thermal, because he had left it out there so we could, transfer the footage. He could send it over to me, and he couldn't get out there because the seas were so rough. And he's like, I can't get out there till probably May or late April again.
Like next year.
Yeah, like next year. So that was kind of unfortunate. But like the recreation looked so differently than what they had filmed, and it was just so undefined. It was really hard to tell really anything. So
Yeah.
and I've
Yeah.
used a pulsar Hellion now for a while, and I've kind of learned the ins and outs. That was one of my first times ever using one out there at that location. I'd used other pulsars, but not that one. Like the smaller ones, I forget the name of it, and FLIRs and AGMs. I've used a bunch of those guys, and I don't really like the FLIR Scouts. I think they're awful. But
They
but
really
yeah,
are. I mean, that's low budget thermal right there.
yeah. And so I always tell people like the AGM TM160 I have is like the competitor to FLIR, and I've noticed the company AGM, they market more towards like the hunting and even people doing like night vision. Shooting and that kind of stuff, and so they
Yeah.
have like night vision and so you can get it for under $400. They have basically a competitor to the FLIR that, in my opinion, has better resolution and has a zoom on it as well. You can 2x zoom, and there's a tripod screw at the bottom. The FLIR Scout doesn't have one. That is honestly unacceptable.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, because I put them on like monopods all the time and that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, not to go on like a super specific thermal rant, but that's just okay. I used a FLIR Scout for like a year because my buddy let me borrow one, and I just didn't. I ended up not liking it after that point. Then I switched to the AGM, but we have been using with Small Town Monsters the Pulsar Hellion 2, which is the one that filmed that footage. It's a different one, but we have that one, and I've used that one quite a bit. It's a really cool one.
Yeah, and dude, there's nothing wrong with doing a commercial for good or better thermal technology, because in my opinion, like, to put that information out there is good. Like,
Yeah, I would just say that, like, just out of my experience, again, people ask me a lot like about the FLIR Scouts because they see that a lot, I think. And in Finding Bigfoot, they might have had them too because they were actually sponsored by FLIR at one point. So a lot of people are like familiar with that, but I did research, and they're actually designed more for like finding warm leaks in pipelines and gas leaks. So you could just see like a general
commercial
blob.
use. Yeah.
Yeah, commercial use. Whereas the AGM, they basically took the same thing and said, well, this is more for like if you're doing hog hunting or places where you can hunt legally at night. And so obviously, Bigfooting, that's like a perfect use for a more wildlife geared kind of thermal. So I just find that one as like in my opinion, like a great starter thermal is the AGM TM160. There's also the Taipan, which I think is the same company. It's like a little bit more expensive. It's maybe just under $1,000. I know a couple of people who have that too, and they're really happy with it. Another thing you can do with the AGM that I've started doing, thanks to Chris Spencer, he had the idea, was mounting it on like a tripod, and then, or you having external power, you can just run it all night outside your tent, or just have it sticking out of the tent and just run it all night. We've started doing that. I've done it a bunch of times. I haven't gotten anything, but I'd love to get like a bear or something walking by because we've got them on audio before. So, but anyway, again, super specific thermal geek out stuff, but
no, and that's fine, dude. Again, like, it's good. Yeah, I think it's good to inform the audience. Hey man, what's good tech, and what do you recommend versus what you think might be lesser. Like,
right.
like to me, that's important stuff. And even though we're talking thermal, which is more expensive equipment, obviously, than most simpler things,
Yeah.
like you can get IR stuff for way less, right? But
Right. That's all over the
yeah,
spectrum, and I'm not like huge on IR myself personally. I think thermals are just better. I don't know. I mean, at least from what we can tell, I know that there's animals that can sense IR, and I have no idea if Bigfoot can or not. I mean, primates don't have crazy good vision from what we know, compared to other senses that they have,
right.
or other animals. But I've got footage of deer, bear looking right at the camera as it's going off. And that's a whole other discussion. But I just personally think thermals are just better because you can go basically fully dark mode and you just have that on and you're just looking around. And I've gotten some
Yeah,
cool animals. I mean, I was in Kentucky recently and I got like a beaver right next to me chewing a tree on a thermal. I've never seen one at night just doing its thing,
right.
which is kind of
Yeah.
neat. So there's just a lot of cool stuff you can get with it. But
And
yeah, that's one of the things obviously we had to have out there. I felt if there was a place for something like this to be, this location is honestly perfect. And I don't know. I mean, we didn't have the luck I would have loved to have had if we had gotten actually some thermal footage or something. But it's tough when you're out there.
yeah, except for the view, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
I
out
mean,
there
come
it's just
on,
like
dude. You got to spend a week at a badass remote Alaskan cabin, man. So I'm
not complaining
a
at
little
all.
jelly, but
Not complaining at all.
yeah.
No, yeah.
But it's cool that you guys actually like, you know, I'm sure you had fun out there, but
Oh
man,
yeah.
you were working. Like some of those hikes were not easy, I'm guessing.
Oh, it was a total pain. I mean, especially that one we did it where we went, after we went to that point and we went up back and we went up to the mountain to the snow line essentially. And I mean, it just takes you so long. And we were like, oh my God, we must have made it so far. And then you get back to the cabin, you launch the drone up, and you're like, that's where we were. That's not even, it doesn't even look that far.
Right.
Because you're not using a trail, you're just slow moving. You're just kind
Yeah.
of it's bushwhacking. I mean, we were following trails that were actually mountain goat and Sitka black-tailed deer trails, and we showed that. You could see scat, and there was a lot of foot impressions, and
Yeah. Yeah.
out there it's all moss. So there's like these big general impressions that you find that could really be anything. I mean, could be a bear, could be a moose, could be a Sasquatch. I don't know because you just can't. There's no definition at all because it's just so mossy.
True. Yeah, but you guys definitely did some like excruciating stuff, I would say. I mean, so thank you for doing that. I mean, again, keeping it real. At least you're like trying. Like well, we're gonna go up here.
Yeah, it definitely kicked our asses at times. But it's what was really cool about it was, normally day to day you've got a lot of different things going on, especially us people live in society. Maybe some hermit in the woods doesn't have these same problems. That's kind of what we were. But your day to day becomes so different because you're just trying to figure out, okay, what do we do today? Where are we going to go look? We're trying to strategize, but we don't have all these other. We don't have to worry about taxes or whatever. In that moment, you're not like focused on all the garbage that you have to deal on a day-to-day basis. So the priorities are simple. So you can kind of think a little bit more like the animals, that what do they want? What are they, what's their day-to-day kind of thing. So, we would go do a big hike, then we'd take a nap and then we'd get ready to do like a night thing. And, that night. And the only reason it's going to be 2 episodes, honestly, is because we filmed over a terabyte of footage out there
Oh wow.
because we had so many different devices. I mean, you've got like 3 of us filming with 4K cameras at any given moment
Yeah.
with 4K drone, and then GoPros, all the other stuff, the night vision cameras, everything, the thermals. So we had like a terabyte of footage, and I'm like, this is going to be like a 3-hour, 4-hour documentary if I do it in one sitting.
Yeah.
So I kind of decided, because I had to balance between introducing the story. We had long interviews with all the people that we got to talk to. So, like the property owner, Scott, and Rob Roy.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was another guy, Victor, that was there as well, who experienced some rock throwing. I had to kind of like balance introducing that and then us actually going out there and just looking. And I was like, I'm going to split up by days. I think that'll be kind of interesting.
I love the chronological order, dude. I love how you introed everything the way you did, and then you went straight to chronological order day one.
Yep. Yeah, it just kind of made sense because every day we had like a set kind of goal, and
Yeah.
the first few days were just take it easy because a lot of the times, and you got to understand, these guys have been going out there since I think 2019 is their first summer season, so this would have been like the fourth season out there. So
Hmm.
it may seem like they have a ton of stories, but they've been going out there for 4 years at that point, so they can list off all the things that happen. Whereas you may go to a place and not have anything happen, and you talk to a guy who's been researching an area for like a decade, and obviously he'll probably have a handful of stories. It's like all compounded into one. So, trying, and even in part two, there will be some stories about other things that have happened while they were out there because they kept a journal the first year.
Uh-huh.
And then they were in touch again, as I was saying, with people like in the NAWAC and then the Olympic Project and folks that were like, this is what you should do. You should get a recording unit. You should write down all the stuff that happens.
Right. Yeah.
Which I think is great because most people, like, these guys were not Bigfooters. They only brought Rob Roy in because he happens
How did he get involved?
so the property owner had gone to like a local library talk in like near Anchorage where these guys all live, and had met Rob. Rob Roy was doing like a talk on Bigfoot. And again, I said Rob Roy's been in Bigfoot since the 90s. He's just been doing like eyewitness art. That sort of kind of like Sibylla Irwin, who does like the eyewitness sketches, I think for the BFRO or just independently. He's been doing that kind of stuff forever. Like he literally just goes out and takes pictures of the mountains and will like draw a Bigfoot in it. It's actually really cool. I have some of his prints. They're pretty fun. And they just ended up connecting. And he was like, "Hey, if you want to come out to the cabin, come on out." And Rob Ray had never really done any Bigfoot investigating before.
Oh, interesting.
He had some, experience in the Hatcher Pass area in Alaska. And we did another video on that, came out in June, which is more just kind of like him talking about people, like miners recounting their stories up in that. It's like north of Anchorage. There's this mountain range that's owned by the Athabascan natives, and they call it the Valley of the Wild Man in their language. Supposedly Dr. Robert Alley translated that, or there's a bunch of people that apparently know about this area, and it's just been known for a while that there's like a Bigfoot hotspot. So Rob Roy's kind of worked that area, but he'd never really done investigating. So then he started going out to the cabin, and he went out like 13, 15 times between the 3 years. So it just kind of made sense that Scott was like, "Hey, we want to bring him out too," because he's experienced a lot of stuff. He kind of knows the lay of the land. So we're like, yeah, obviously makes sense to involve him. Because we don't know the area. I mean, it was like our first time there. I'm not going to assume I know everything about this crazy rugged place, especially in Alaska, where there are things that will kill you very easily if it tries. So I mean,
Sure.
it's not like Florida or anywhere else we go where there are threats. Here it's like you have moose and brown bear that are ambush predator, essentially brown bear.
And huge, just
huge
things,
monsters.
Yeah.
So that's why we were carrying like 12 gauges out there, and everyone is armed at all times because you don't mess around in a place like Alaska.
Sure.
So yeah, that's how Rob Ray got involved. I should say.
Well, that's interesting. And I want to talk to Rob, man. Like, I want to have Rob on the show one night.
Definitely. He's honestly a very amusing guy. He's like one of the funniest people I've ever met. Just very like funny, jovial kind of character. Always kept us very entertained. But he's pretty serious about it. I wouldn't say he's he has the Bigfoot art gallery, but matting and framing is kind of his bread and butter. And then he has the Bigfoot stuff on the side, and people seem to really enjoy that because again, he's been doing Bigfoot art for like 20 years online.
He became it's a people story.
Yeah, he's a character.
Became sort of the focal point of the people story part of it, which I thought was really cool because it wasn't you guys. You guys weren't trying to make yourselves the focal point. There's this other interesting guy, and it wasn't even Scott, like who owns the property. It ended up being Rob Roy.
Right.
It's like, dude, he's in every scene. Like he's always there.
He gets around.
His personality does come through, and it's a likable personality, and he doesn't say stupid stuff. Like he's pretty like genuine and sensible.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, just from my experience with him, if I thought he was kind of anything other than that, I would have said so. But I thought he was pretty down to earth and definitely good to have around. Just because, like I said, he has experienced stuff out there and been out there. So that was just a big one for us.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And the weird thing, I'll just touch on this real quick. Another reason why I want to talk to him, I'd love to have an on-air discussion with Rob, is because his whole wood knock encounter that happened there at that property is eerily similar to mine.
Oh, right on.
It's, I mean, eerily similar. The freaking the connections that can be made, and his, in the film he spends maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes talking about it. Maybe more. It was so similar. Down to the metal freaking chair, dude.
That
the
was
weird metal chair.
Those rocks were, I actually I don't have, oh man, I think it's in my closet, but I have one of those rocks that they would find in their boat. Like they would literally find this thing 100+ feet out in their boat. Like in the mornings they would hear a thump and then they'd be cleaning it and they'd find these
That's
rocks
hard to explain.
with a net. If you give me like a minute, I can actually go grab one of these rocks and show people. I think I literally have it in that closet over there.
Yeah, go for it, bro. Go for it. So yeah, I know what he's talking about. Like one of these rocks, which is easily identifiable because it has a net around it, which is I don't know why that happened. Some old timer thing. The way they used to, catch fish in nets, they would use rocks that had little tiny nets.
So here's one. I kept
there you go.
one. There was there's hundreds of these all around the beach, all coastal Alaska, because a lot of people, like the most common question we get is, oh, did you guys go to Portlock? Were you in Port Chatham? Which is the Alaskan Killer BS kind of show location, and it's a real place. Right, and there's been a book done on it by Larry Beans Baxter, who's also been involved in this property, who's a researcher out there, former law enforcement. And all around the Kenai Peninsula, there used to be settlements. I mean, you got to realize that the Russians were actually there well before, this was part of the United States. There was Russian fishing settlements and all the natives and everything there. And then in the 20th century, there were a lot of communities that were founded on logging and fishing. So they would, instead of using lead or metal, they would just take rocks off the beach, wrap them in a net. And now you walk the shore and you'll see hundreds of them. I mean, we could dig them up out of the moss. They had been buried because they were in there for so long. And these are the exact type of rocks they would find thrown into their boat, or I'm assuming thrown. They would just find them in their boat, which they'd moor out in the bay, because before they had the cabin, they didn't want to sleep on the shore because of fear of bears or whatever, that sort of thing. So they would find these in the boat. And I had one person that I had emailed, a primatologist, about some of the audio and some of the stuff. I've been talking to a lot of folks behind the scenes. And they were like, well, what about a raven? Could a raven have picked up the rocks and dropped them in the boat? I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's like, I didn't think of that. And I don't know if they would do that at night. I mean, there's possible there's ravens there, but that's just like something that they would report, is finding these in the boat. And, they obviously had witnessed rocks being thrown physically into the water from the woods and like seeing it in a pattern. And Scott
seeing it arc down. Yeah.
That was like the first thing they ever saw. And
yeah. Scott talks about that in the intro. Like, man,
there's hundreds. These are everywhere.
Trajectory,
that was weird. And then the story about that, and I included that, and there's like the interview segment there. He talked to a guy, and this is actually really interesting. This was part of my process when I was kind of confirming the whole story. This would have been over a year ago at this point, but Les Stroud apparently was out there and had his famous kind of Bigfoot or whatever encounter.
So it was in that area?
It was literally one of those bays. I don't know which, because there's dozens of bays all around where that one particular one is. The whole Kenai Peninsula. I mean, if you look at it on Google Earth, it's ridiculous. Just there's like hidden little valleys everywhere. So what Scott was saying, he was talking to a guy who had a bigger boat, contractor, who would help him bring out like, lumber so he could build the cabin. And after that first experience, this guy had he had brought some guys out there to look at the property a few weeks before Scott bought it. And the guys were from Georgia or something like that. I believe the state. So And they had camped out there, and they were apparently freaked out because there was stuff running around their camp all night. And they said one guy got out, and it sounded like a bulldozer running through the woods. Could be a bear. I mean, but they were freaked out. They didn't want to buy the property. They were like, screw this.
Right.
And then Scott went and saw it. They had that first incident happen as they're using the chainsaws. He calls the contractor, and he's like, what's going on here? We had some weird stuff happen. What happened to those guys? Were they freaked out? And he describes to him what happened. And the boat captain, the contractor guy's like, oh, you mean that's like Sasquatch? And Scott's just like,
Right.
you got to be kidding me. Like, why would you say that? Is this a joke to you? Like, we actually experienced this kind of stuff. And he's like, no, I'm serious. And he says, Les Stroud. And he's like, yeah, we know Les Stroud, Survivor Man. This was before, or this at that time probably would have been when Bigfoot, the Survivor Man Bigfoot thing was out. But when this happened to Les Stroud, this was like the mid 2000s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
This contractor was actually the guy that Discovery, through Les's production company, hired to take him out to this particular area, because you need like a serious, or like you can't just take like a little dinghy out there. I mean, this is like I said, this is an over an hour journey, and you're going through different bays and inlets, and like it can get very rough if you don't know your stuff. So Discovery hires the guy, they drop Les Stroud off, and he says that they come back a few days later to pick him up, or however long the trek is, and they pick up Les, and he said he looked like shit. And apparently the first thing he started talking about was, what do you think about the possibility of Sasquatch existing? And as the story goes. And so I then, Scott had sent me some pictures of when they had brought the lumber out and it happened to have a picture of the captain on his boat with the name of the boat there. And I went and rewatched the Survivor Man episode, and they happened to show a shot of Les leaving on his kayak, filming the boat, and it's literally the same boat with the same name on it. So I was like, okay, so this is plausible. I mean, whether or not this was this exact same bay, I don't know, but it means that it was the same general region. So that was kind of one of my stories that I was like kind of a confirmation that, okay, this is pretty interesting. And that's as far as I know. I'd love to talk to Les about it. Just figure out where he was, because we like spent time trying to figure out, was it this bay, was it that one? But
yeah.
they all look the same.
I'm not sure Les would know. Maybe, right?
They all look the same, man. They really do. I mean, there's that one area we went to, that glacier where it flattens out, and that's about it. But there used to be settlements in all these little places, and like the Port Chatham one, they were abandoned because of economic reasons. And people have inflated the Port Chatham thing with killer Bigfoot murdering people in Nantinak or whatever. That's not. If you read Larry Beans Baxter's book, he very much says that the truth is well more in the middle, where there were tons of communities like this that were just abandoned. And supposedly in this bay, there was also a community like 100 years ago that, because the logging, that lifestyle got very tough. People, they offer to do jobs in Anchorage or other places. They didn't want to continue living in these remote areas where you're basically risking your life daily. So that a lot of these communities were abandoned. So that's kind of what happened. So there was a ton of places around there where there were settlements that now nature has literally reclaimed it. So, and that was very intriguing.
Yeah, and that is an interesting aspect, because again, you guys do dive into some history a little bit.
We mentioned it here and there.
But do you know anything more about the modern day cabins that seem to nobody really knows? Hey, have people been here recently, or 10 years or 20 years? There's a couple of modern day cabins in the immediate area.
Yeah. So, I mean, the one that we found that we actually heard about it because some of the other people that Scott has had there over the years supposedly found that, and they found another cabin which was more like decrepit. We expected this cabin to be like barely anything left, just foundations or whatever, or just maybe a decrepit roof, but it was actually like pretty intact cabin, but it was all boarded up, but it looked like nobody had really been there in maybe 10, 15 years. I mean, it's really hard to tell, but Scott said he's never seen anybody out there going to it. There's like no easy access to it, because I mean, at the time of year we were there was still a lot of snow in that area, but I mean, it was like, it was in the woods, so you had to walk a little bit if you were just going.
It wasn't even like Scott's cabin, like right there on the bay.
No, and he picked that one for obviously convenient location, because he's right there. He built that as a fishing cabin. You got to understand, he never he's not a Bigfoot guy. He didn't get into it. I mean, the guy really doesn't need the Bigfoot topic. He does well for himself.
Right.
And
That's what I was thinking.
yeah, like, so he
Yeah.
built it as a fishing cabin, a place to get away
At
from.
first, I mean, I'll be honest with you, Alex. At first, my first angle was, is this guy trying to make a Bigfoot tourist destination?
Yeah.
Is
Oh,
that what this is all about? And then I quickly realized, I'm like, well, this guy has money.
no,
Like,
he
it
definitely
takes money to put all of that infrastructure into place. Like, no, he's not doing that, So
Alaska
I
too is
just
one of the
missed it.
most expensive places to live, in
Yeah.
the entire United States. I mean, very high cost of living up there. So, a lot of people that are up there, they work serious jobs. As I mentioned, there's a lot of military, a lot of commercial stuff up there. But people are pretty hardcore in Alaska, and even the native Alaskans that live up there are just very resourceful and very tough people. But yeah, so in regards to the cabin, he had built this as like a place to get away from work and stuff and go out
Yeah.
there and just have fun in the summers. And he did not. I don't think he expected any of the stuff that happened. And he, like I said, I was not the first researcher he had ever talked to, and I'm glad that's not the case, because he was talking to a lot more competent people, like the NAWAC and Olympic Project, and folks that have like scientists and biologists kind of on standby and that sort of thing. So he was more in touch with those types of folks, and we just happened to be the first ones that really got permission to go out there and kind of film and do our own sort of investigating. And like I said, Larry Beans Baxter, he's actually done some stuff on his YouTube on this place. He's got the Alasquatch podcast, and I think he's a really solid researcher. He has a law enforcement background. He reminds me of Steve Coles actually a lot, but
Okay.
more Alaskan variety. He's written, he wrote the book on the Port Chatham thing. I would definitely recommend checking out his stuff for sure, because he's done stuff on, I think he coined Area A, the name of the place. They kind of coined it Area Ape, just
Right.
sort of jokingly as kind of the name. But
Mhm.
we just kind of called it like the cabin or the Alaska cabin. That was sort of just the slang.
Yeah, I can't stand the area.
Yeah.
Whatever,
It was kind of,
nomenclature, dude. Like, I'm like,
I
really?
understand the need for it, but I think they did it more tongue in cheek there, just like Area Ape, kind of thought it was cool.
Yeah, and that's fine, because that was only featured, like, it wasn't prevalent in the documentary.
Right.
I think you guys only mentioned it once by title or whatever.
Right. Yeah, we just kind of introducing it. But yeah, that's like, I mean, there's a lot more details. Again, if you have any questions about anything, but that's like the basic story that, this guy built this place. Like, Alaskans do this kind of thing. That's not the only cabin in the world in Alaska. A lot of these are out there. I mean, there's entire reality shows based on Alaskan, like bush cabin kind of building.
True.
So it's very popular. So he's just, building his dream Alaskan cabin, and then started having all this really weird stuff happen. And, I don't know if it would have been that boat captain probably, saying it was Sasquatch, him thinking it was a joke, when it turns out he was actually serious about it. The guy was like, matter of fact, believed, there's Sasquatch all in those areas. And this is a guy who contracts, does boat work all up and down the Kenai Peninsula with Les Stroud and others. So I thought that was really interesting. This story just kind of was I thought was very captivating. And it wasn't. It was.
You did a
different.
great job of making it captivating on your end in presentation. I just want to say that. Fantastic job, dude. It is captivating.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's the most interesting case I've ever personally been on, worked on. And even if we had, no Bigfoot element to it at all, if this was just a place where somebody invited you to go for like a week or whatever, if you got invited to go to a place like that,
yes,
it's like you can't say no to.
No, again, I'm jelly.
And some of the food we ate was just, I mean, the freshest kind of stuff. We literally were eating stuff that was caught locally. There's incredible fish runs out there. We were out of season for salmon and halibut, but we had rockfish, which were pretty nice. And they're very delicious, like moose that he had hunted, caribou, all kinds of stuff. I mean, Alaskans, they do a lot of hunting and they eat a lot of the stuff that they catch. So it's pretty incredible up there. There's like really no place like Alaska. It's just incredible.
Oh shit, dude! You guys filmed humpback whales. Like, what the? I mean, so now it's like a Nat Geo thing happening in the middle.
It was crazy.
Bigfoot, like looking for humpback whales. Like,
I mean, it's funny because that they had spotted them a few mornings before that, but myself, Eli, and Ron, being kind of the younger guys, we would stay up till like 3, 4 in the morning at times, up in the woods at the upper fire pit, or just sitting around, waiting for something to happen, doing the squatching kind of game, the bigfooting stuff. So we'd sleep in the mornings, and one morning they're just like, we just hear screaming, whales, whales, and they come in and wake us up, and they're like, trust me, you guys, let's get on the boat. You want to go out and film this. So we're all like still half awake, zipping out there.
You do want to film it.
Yeah, I launched the drone, and Eli got that insane footage of the humpback whales, and you see them. Like, I was filming with like a handy cam, and you could see in the perspective that you would get if you go like whale watching or something. But I've never seen, aside from on other TV productions and that kind of thing, the overhead footage of the whales, and just seeing how it was like, whoa,
that was straight out of Nat Geo.
It was a mother and a baby. It was a smaller one, and maybe it was a mating pair. I don't know, given that time of year, but just saw them go up, and they just left. And there was a couple other days where we just saw them in the distance, but that was like the most amazing one, because they were all under us and all around us. And again, it's just that area is so biodiverse. I mean, they're everywhere. It's something everywhere. I mean, on land you have brown bear, black bear, moose, Sitka deer, mountain goats. Again, we saw those. We saw lynx tracks. We found lynx tracks. They'll be in part 2. Just everything you can imagine on land. We had like martins coming up. They would come up on the deck to try and steal like food scraps, little weasel looking things. And so just all this kind of crazy stuff. And then you look in the ocean, you've got seals and sea lions and whales, orcas, giant kelp runs that come through. So you can imagine food sources for anything that's living in that area is ridiculous.
It's tremendous. Obviously,
bears out there, they'll feast on bears will feast on beached whales. So that's a huge protein source. They can eat anything that washes up in the ocean, or just go after the terrestrial stuff that a grizzly bear would be able to do inland too. But they don't. There's a difference between brown bear and grizzly bear. Brown bears get a little bit bigger because they have access to a lot richer food sources from both land and sea, whereas grizzly bears in interior Alaska, they have to scrap a little bit for their meals. They're a little bit, they have to fight a little more for their food. So they look a little.
They're still huge.
There's not enough millimeters that would, caliber that I would want to run, not have to run into one of these guys.
Right.
So we have luck not running into anything that, close. But
so before we talk about part 2, and I do want to talk about part 2 somewhat.
Yeah, sure.
The most profound thing I think that was said in part 1 was when you said you were up the hill, away from the the fire pit, when you guys were doing kind of that thing. At some point, you were up there a little bit. And you just said, I'll kind of ballpark it, but you pretty much said, we're at a 10 times disadvantage from these things. Like trying like to navigate through this or whatever. Like it was very profound that you realize in that moment, we are at such a huge disadvantage. And I think that was the most profound thing said in part 1 of that documentary. I just wanted to throw that out there.
It's true. I mean, it really is. You could see the train out there. And when we walked up this hill, I mean, we thought it was like the point that as we call it, which we got on the drone quite a bit, was just this little like thing that jutted out. But it took us like over an hour just to get to the end of it from the cabin. And we're like, that looks like it's just over there. Everything looks deceptively close. And you're walking these trails, and you realize we're leaned up on the one side that slopes into the ocean. There's the hill, and then there's an entire other side. So something could be at the point. Know you're coming. Go around the other way, and unless you're going and intersecting it, you would have no idea it was there. And I mean, I'm sure that's the case with. We had a lynx, as I mentioned. We found lynx tracks out there. Mm-hmm. This guy was probably walking around there. The bear we had that was further up the mountain, but the bear tracks were fresh because it was wet, melting snow, and those tracks were really well preserved. So that would have meant he was there very shortly before us.
Right.
We might have even pushed him up out of that area. And he was he was super high up the mountain, but you just don't have the jump on anything out there. And let alone something like a Sasquatch potentially that it has a mastery of its terrain like the other animals do. We saw a lot of animals, yes, but did we sneak up on anything? Did we really get a chance to get up on anything? Not really. I mean, you just can't as a human. You just are completely disadvantaged.
Well, to me, it was so profound because what you said in that moment about even that situation and that terrain is all fair. And I just think to myself, well, that's everywhere. Like, that's North Georgia. That's
Yeah.
Florida. That's, dude, like,
Oh,
that's
it's
the
true.
whole thing, dude. Like, that's why we don't have, like, 10,000 hours of footage of Sasquatch was summed up beautifully. And man, we just don't, we're disadvantaged out here. And I think that's the key point is that, the boots on the ground stuff, but you're kind of always in that position, I think.
Yeah, I think the best. I mean, and we've been in a lot of different places, and the most luck we've really ever had is if something chooses to come towards you. Um, that's. I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
that last night where it kind of ended on the cliffhanger, and I'm sorry to do that, guys. I don't like cliffhangers, but I
It's
knew people
okay.
are.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, Alex. Production wise, that's in play.
And it's because I had to split it, and I thought, oh, this would be a frustrating place to end it on. But
That's
those,
fine.
those knocks and the things that we heard, I mean, it literally sounded like rocks being thrown in the water. And I can't say 100% obviously what that was. It was just weird. And it happened the day when we did the most intense search of that area. So we went all around, and then we're hanging out by the fire pit. So I've had a bunch of people message me saying, oh, do you think that was because, you were hiking through the whole area, that's all you got? Some kind of activity. And I said, I mean, I don't know, maybe, but it was just strange. I mean, that's just what happened. That's just kind of like literally the sequence of events. There's nothing we changed for that. That's just kind of how it ended. And then, so part two will cover basically where that picked off night 4, and then, the rest of the days out there. So,
all right. Well, Alex, give us a preview of part 2, kind of where you're like, where we left off up through part 2. What can we expect? No spoilers. You don't have to give away spoilers. Sure. But what's part 2? What are we looking at, man?
So part 2 is going to be more. It's just going to be a continuation, essentially, where it picked off. So we started the part 1, the introduction to the whole story. Then there was up to day 4 and night 4. So part 2 will pick up right where night 2 or night 4 stopped in that first part. So it'll start from right there, and then it goes on to the next few days. And we did a lot more stuff those next few days, and we had some other kind of weird stuff happen, and we found some interesting stuff, and nothing that's going to change the game or anything like that. But
right,
we're just showing what we found. I mean, that's part of it is, exactly what happened is what we're showing. And then we kind of wrap it up with, I've been talking to some folks, as I mentioned earlier, that are not really, is like kind of primatologists and people that aren't really in the Bigfoot world, just trying to talk about some of the audio and some of the other stuff that's out there, just to get opinions and feelers. And I've hit a wall on a lot of them, but I've gotten some interesting responses. So we'll kind of try to wrap it up with that. But then it's definitely going to be open-ended, because we do plan on returning at some point, because I mean, this area I think is just a perfect kind of place. And with the amount of potential activity that's gone on there, and just to be honest, we were the longest trip that had ever been out there at that cabin in one single stay. The longest those guys had ever been out there was like 4 or 5 days. And we basically were there 8 days in total. So we left that eighth morning, but if you add that to the first day, cat doing something in the background.
Felines.
Yeah, running around crazy. But yeah, so essentially we're really hoping to go back, because I think just the amount of time out there, maybe we'll up your chances. We may hopefully be able to bring some better gear and that kind of stuff. But
okay.
You see,
so this particular shoot is a 2-parter, right? So it's not going to be 3 or 4 for this particular shoot.
Yeah, so it's going to be definitely going to be concluded in the second one. Again, I mostly did that because I honestly thought this was just going to be one film, but because we ended up shooting so much footage and so
a terabyte is a lot, dude.
Oh yeah. And I've been going through the audio, and I've had like David Ellis and Chris Spencer and those guys looking at audio,
right?
Because they're just way better than I am, and that sort of thing. So it's just out of convenience, but I think it works because because the flow with the different days and all that kind of stuff. So
All right. Well, I do have a question for you
yeah,
before I
sure.
let you go because we are going to wrap up here. Um, has the experience profoundly changed any of your thoughts towards the subject of Bigfoot?
It's a good question. I don't think it's profoundly changed it. I think it's just that's a really good question. I wouldn't say my opinions changed that much. I lean more towards these things being real in general, based off of some of the experiences I've had. I've never seen one.
Right.
Um, just so many people you talk to, and I think you know, getting to know somebody like Scott, who just again, he doesn't need Bigfoot in his life, right? And he doesn't even believe. He says he's agnostic to it, but he has
Right.
a willingness to talk to folks and let them come out there and try and figure things out. So, I can't be more thankful for that. But I wouldn't say it's profoundly changed it. It's definitely made me extremely tempted to go and live in Alaska. But that's a tough one. That would be a tough one to pull off.
Well, bro, uh, before I let you go, is there anything you want to touch on specifically about part two? Because I know, well, also I want to know the timing of it. Like,
Yeah.
roughly, can you ballpark when's part two going to drop? And are there any bullet points that you kind of want to, talk about that are going to be in part two?
Yeah, so I've talked about this before, I think, on other shows, but we found this kind of weird looking handprint on the back of the cabin there that we've sent to Doug Hycheck and others since. Really weird, like greasy, big, strange looking handprint.
Okay.
That's kind of a weird
No,
thing.
no, it is what it is, right? Yeah.
So, and the mystery gunshots, more of those, which is just super weird. I got that recorded, and I actually experienced that myself, and was just like, it was a really weird kind of thing, because in the first part, they had originally, those guys, when they came out to get us when we were exploring the cabin, they came out because they thought we had shot a gun. So they're thinking, oh, these guys are getting attacked by something. They get out and they see we're fine. And they're like, "Did you guys shoot a gun?" I'm like, "No, we wouldn't do
Yeah.
that unless we had a reason."
And that's captured sort of live. Like, that
Like
was captured in
just
the
happened,
moment.
Eli happened to be filming, and they're just like, "Hey, did you guys shoot a gun?"
Yeah.
And we're like, "Nope."
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. But yeah, so part two, like I said, it's a continuation mostly. I think people will enjoy it, and definitely, it's just got more of the kind of same from the first part, but I think in a different way as well. But it's going to be coming out actually December 25th, so on Christmas Day. So I know it's a little bit of a wait, but I think it's the 25th. So it's Christmas
Okay.
Day.
All right.
So
That's
but
not too long to wait. I speculated a couple of weeks,
yeah,
maybe a month. So yeah, I
we
hit
kind
that in the ballpark. Yeah.
we
Yeah.
kind of chose like a month between,
Yeah.
and those holiday releases, people seem to really enjoy those. We
And
did
there's
that.
nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like a little holiday gift almost, but
Because
so
they're
that
at home. I mean, they have time, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, we kind of had a lot of interest in this from the start, but it'll be 25th publicly, and then we have it'll be the 18th for our channel members, and that's essentially just if you want to see it in like 4K, that kind of thing, and you get early access. It's
No
just
ads.
yeah, no ads as well. Yeah, a lot of people use ad blockers, but I still get people all the time messaging saying, how do I get rid of the ads? I'm like, use an ad blocker because those things work pretty well. And yeah, so it'll be December 18th for those guys. And obviously, I have people that I send it to previously as well to screen it and that sort of thing. And yeah, just kind of a month between we felt was enough time, make it interesting. And, we're not hiding anything. I'm actually still working on part two. So it's in the works. So it'll be done by then. But just to answer Tristan's question there, yeah, he's asked if we're going back to the cabin. Not soon.
Tristan. What is under what name?
Kaiju.
Tristan's Kaiju? Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He says, "Are you planning on going back to the cabin soon? What would you do differently, if anything?"
There we go.
So not exactly soon, like next season. So probably what I would do differently this time is go when there's not as much snow. I mean, we had plenty of areas where there wasn't snow, but even like early mid-May, there was still a lot of snow.
As soon as you hit that elevation, bam.
Yeah. Boom. So like later in the summer for sure. And just like I said, doing a longer stay out there and talking to more folks beforehand. I had talked to a bunch of people about potentially trying to do eDNA stuff this past time, and it was just seemed very difficult, for a non-scientist to do that and get it
I
preserved in
agree.
a
I
efficient
agree,
way.
dude.
Which is actually funny because we did I was focused on the eDNA thing, but I didn't even think about getting like a handprint recovery kit or one of those like fingerprint kits or anything, because I'm thinking we're out in the middle of nowhere. There's only one structure. There's the cabin. We're not going to find any kind of hand or face prints. That was like not even on my radar,
Yeah,
and yet that's
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 fine.
exactly what we found. So we actually let a guy, Larry Beans Baxter, who again law enforcement background, he was able to gather the print like less than a week, I think, that when we left the property. He went out there and they managed to dust it and preserve a sample and that kind of thing. So Doug Highcheck has some of that. So I don't know
Oh yeah, yeah,
what's
yeah.
going to happen with that, but
That went to Doug, huh?
yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
we
he was
had some of
thinking.
that, and yeah. So we have
Yeah.
obviously a document and that kind of stuff, but that's funny. I just didn't really focus on that at all beforehand. So I definitely will talk to more folks, and I'd like to get somebody out there perhaps that's not in Bigfoot at all, that's like a scientist or a biologist that might be able to help us with other
Right.
pointers if we did find something interesting. If somebody would be willing. So yeah, we've got some ideas for sure of what we can try, but I guess there's a lot of planning until then.
Well,
But that's a ways away. I wish it was like next week, but
dude, yeah, you and me both. Um, I mean, just enjoy your time out there. Like some of those clips where you guys were around the campfire, you know,
oh, sorry, cat feeder's going off. Have it on an auto timer, so they're going to start running in here soon.
kitty, kitty, come here, kitty.
Oh, man.
Let's have a talk. Pete, come here. Let's talk.
Yeah, right.
Um,
They're busy munching.
some like I lost my train of thought. Um, I've totally lost my train of thought, dude. Hey, this is Squatch Talk. It's okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to distract with the cats.
No. No. I think I was just gonna say, like, keep doing what you're doing. Like, so to go back out there, I say don't change a thing unless you can bring like more advantageous,
Yeah,
like technology, like that kind of thing. That's fine, of course, but keep it real because that's what I freaking loved about the documentary, and that's why it has 400,000 views, bro.
yeah. That we
Like
did not
that
see
is
that coming at all. It was
incredible,
crazy.
man.
It like really just I think it started hitting those algorithms and
Bam, bam, bam.
yeah, it's like
Yes,
suggestions because you see like how it gets suggested and that sort of thing.
yes.
But yeah,
And
no, I mean,
I just added 5 more views to that total. So just remember that.
absolutely no. But
Yeah.
what was I going to say was yeah, just a lot of the stuff they've had happen was them just doing normal human stuff there. They weren't doing the normal kind of bigfooting, squatching sort of stuff, and we did a little bit of that, because the wood knocking thing. The property owner said, yeah, for whatever reason, they get responses when they use this like South American percussion thing.
Yeah, that
That
was kind of interesting to
that was
me.
weird. Like that's what
Yeah.
they do knocks and that, and that's the kind of sound that they'll get coming back from the woods
Yeah.
for whatever reason. But yeah, just kind of that was the idea. Was the first few days take it easy, be chill, and then be a little more aggressive. Just start hiking, exploring, that sort of thing. And that's probably a similar approach that we'll take. Because again, those guys have had a lot of weird stuff happen just by being people out there and not really doing anything in particular, working chainsaws or, even the years after the cabin was completed, just going out fishing, human stuff, like humans on vacation kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I'm sure that you guys probably did do this quite a bit while you were there, although you were focused. But I will say this to you and every single Bigfoot person that goes out in the woods trying to document Bigfoot stuff. You know what? Take the time to just sit around the campfire
Oh yeah.
and talk to your compadres and turn the cameras off or leave them at the ready, whatever, right? But put the production down and just be real with each other.
Yep.
And no
Sure.
matter what you do, you should never, no person should ever be robbed of their ability to sit around a campfire and have a good discussion with another fucking person, man.
Oh yeah. I mean, before we had those like knocks that we heard that final night, it was like Rob Roy was doing like a Steven Tyler impression or something. I mean, just the kind of stuff that we just can't publish because of profanities and all that sort of stuff. But just dudes
Right.
around a campfire, and that's when something weird happens. And that's time and time again. That's been the
And
case.
that's fine. Yeah.
Because you are again,
Yeah.
it is a production, so we're out there. We're filming. Even if you have nothing happen, I mean, you have the whole area to document, and it's there's a larger story to it. But just being able to enjoy those moments. I mean, there's so many times where even going to like you have to go to the bathroom to the outhouse, and I would go without a camera or something, and I'm like, I probably should have a camera or something out here just in case there is something that goes on. But you also got to bring a gun with you because you got to say, well, I don't want there to be a brown bear behind that moss that's going to come out, and when I'm done, doing number 2, it comes out and grabs me. I mean, that's a possibility out there. That's how crazy it is. But it's just so profoundly beautiful. I mean, it really is. It's like that area. And I was on another show recently. Somebody mentioned this because we were talking about this as well. It was like another podcast. He said essentially out there, it's like, it's so pure. You essentially are the visitors. It's not, this is a natural area in a human controlled area. It's like Alaska is a place where nature controls everything. Humans are lucky if they maybe have little outposts like the cabin or settlements. It's so rugged.
Always in control.
It's in a place like Alaska, you feel it. I mean, if you fall and break your leg out there, good luck. That's why you travel in numbers, right? I mean, it's like back in in our history as human beings, how people would go hunt mammoths and do all this stuff, and it was strength in numbers. You have one guy, he'll get eaten or killed by something, whereas the strength in numbers thing was absolutely, one of us gets hurt out there, you've got a bunch of other guys to be able to get him out there because you have predators that will probably want to prey on the weak. So there's really no place you feel it like in Alaska. So truly incredible, 10 out of 10 experience just in terms of one location. So,
well, I look forward to part 2. I can't wait. Like, I was completely invested. I was there with you guys. You know what I mean? Like, you guys did a great job. You and your production team, editing, like the behind the scenes guys, right?
Right.
Like people that probably weren't even there.
I actually edited the whole thing. That was all me.
Oh, okay. So you did a fantastic job. You took me to that place. You gave me that situation, and I was right there with you guys, as if like virtual reality, right? Almost like I'm like, right. Oh, okay, cool. All right, what do we do next, Alex? Do we go up this way or do we go that way?
Right.
Like I'm telling you, bro, you emotionally planted that into like my investment in what I was watching. So you did a fantastic job. I'm not trying to put any pressure on you for part 2. Like, just ignore everything I said. Just don't listen to me, man. No, for sure. You do you, boo.
Yeah, and it's
the way you want to make it.
It's going to be more of the same, for sure. Like what people have seen scenery wise, but again, there's other interesting stuff we had happen out there, and just that continuation and kind of trying to wrap it up somehow, but still leave it open ended. So, it was it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun working on it, both afterwards and beforehand. So.
I can't wait. It speaks for itself already, bro. 400,000 YouTube views. Like, that's amazing, especially in the Bigfoot world. Like, that's up there, right?
Right.
And I love that you guys were real about it. I can't say that enough. I hope you continue to, edit the rest of the story that way, and I'm sure you will, because I trust you.
Yeah, if I could just add on that, I mean, one of the things that I've always talked about is, that the need for sort of rational look at the subject. You're not trying to sensationalize it or really put it into everything. And I think kind of you talked to like Bigfoot sauce.
Bigfoot sauce. There's
just in general. Yeah, but just in
There's
general, like there's
none.
so much fakery in this topic and big productions kind of stuff, and it's just it makes a mockery of it, And there's a lot of really popular shows that are out there right now that can you trust what they say? And I'm not trying to say this all. And the only reason I say this is, I don't expect you to believe me. Believe what you want. This is exactly what happened. We are not trying to sugarcoat it or, fabricate anything. And I mean, I think our track record speaks for itself. If we have something happen, we show it. If not, we don't. We're not going to add in fake whoops or dramatic stuff just to, oh, it's more dramatic that way. Because people say, oh, you need to do that for Bigfoot stuff or any kind of paranormal stuff to be interesting. Right. I mean, I think case in point is this film is not like the way how it's doing. It's going outside of the Bigfoot world. We're getting people that are not Bigfoot people, like the regulars that watch some of the big YouTube channels with Bigfoot or other content are watching it. So, we don't need to fabricate anything to make it interesting. I mean, it's just interesting on its own, and it's a true story. I mean, all of that stuff may not be Bigfoot related, absolutely, but it's there. If somebody has any interpretations, we're always open to it. I mean, that's something I don't think you'll get from like cast of Expedition Bigfoot or something like that. You're not going to get them to openly talk about controversies surrounding their work. Whereas, I mean, if there's something controversial you want to talk to me about, and people know this, they can talk to me about it, ask me about it, and I'm happy to talk about it because I don't have anything to hide. I mean, it's truly what happened,
And that shines through. So I can't say that enough, dude. Alex, what you just said shines through. This is just what happened. And it's because you're not purposely smothering it in Bigfoot sauce with the narrative. Like, so you do narration in this documentary.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes
at no point you say, at no point are you like, well, clearly Bigfoot surrounded us and got the best of us. And I mean, you know how it works with editing. You could edit that anything you want, 100%. Right?
There's so many ways I could have led the audience astray, or even myself. But even like we got the weird audio of the sea lions or the seals. I don't know. I honestly don't know which one it is. But when I was listening to the audio, I was like shitting bricks when I heard that. I'm like,
so was I.
And I'm like, okay. And then I'm realizing it's too good to be true kind of thing. And I realized it's seals and sea lions because they did that actually when we were out there. You could hear it every once in a while. You'd hear this like, come from the water. And for a moment, it catches your attention. And then you're like, oh, okay. It's one of those.
Well, I learned something. I learned something through you and that whole documentary is that, well, if you don't know anything about sea lions and you're ignorant, they can actually sound this way, whether that is what it was or not, right?
Right. Well, all I can say too is, those guys, when you're Bigfooting, they are very annoying. We had like towards the end of the trip, there was like 30 sea lions that moved into the bay that previously weren't there. And then they started coming in the bay and just being really obnoxious. So at night, what was crazy is you would hear them splashing. And I actually filmed on the thermal too, like a sea lion bobbing up and down and swimming in the bay.
Yes.
The rocks and the stuff that we had recorded and heard sounded completely different. That sounded, it was like it would be rocks hitting rocks before it hit the water. I mean, which is really weird. So, I don't know, but the sea lions are definitely a pain in the ass when you're trying to do Bigfooting. But that's not like something you usually deal with though when you're out in Bigfooting areas because it's coastal, so you're right there on the ocean. Usually, it's in the middle of some kind of forest or something like that, in the PNW or wherever it may be. So I just find it funny. But anyway, hey, what's up, Shane Corson?
Is Shane here?
I see Shane's in the comments. Yeah.
What's up, Shane? So, dude, it was great. I was sucked in. I was right there with you guys. It was fantastic. My review is thumbs up. Watch it. It's a must watch in any Bigfoot documentary world, dude. Like this is up there as like must watch. Can't wait for part 2. I understand why there's a part two. There's nothing wrong with there being a part two. And all that stuff. And I can't wait. And I can't wait to talk to Rob Roy. Like, you got to put me in touch with Rob, dude. You got to put me in touch with Rob. I want to talk.
Sure.
I'm telling you, it's uncanny in a way. You kind of have to read between the lines a little bit, but it really is uncanny.
Mm-hmm.
When he was describing that wood knock encounter, I'm like, oh my God, he just touched on every talking point I had in my wood knock encounter. Every single one. The whole thing about why didn't I do this? Like, I'm telling you, bro.
And I've been there too. Like, I know exactly the feeling because, you spend enough time out there in the woods, inevitably you'll have some kind of wood knock experience. Whether or not it's Bigfoot related, that's obviously the question. But, you hear wood knocking talked about a lot, and then you have an experience or you hear something, and it's just kind of funny. So, and then you realize in the moment, you're like, why didn't I do this or do that? And it just beat yourself up.
It froze him. It froze me. So that's our biggest common denominator, right? He's saying it froze him in a way. It froze me. It made me do things I wouldn't normally do. I was scared all of a sudden. Like, I had fear, I had concern, and I didn't use the things I would normally use to deal with concern. It's crazy. Down to the metal chair, and I'm not kidding. The metal chair is also in play with my fucking wood knock encounter.
It's weird, man. What I can say about the one we had at the end, that's the audio that's played, none of us at that moment were rolling with cameras or anything. We just had audio on backup. And when that happened, we're all like kind of caught with our pants down and kind of started laughing a little bit. We're chuckling because it's like the adrenaline starts and you're sort of laughing. You're like, is this really happening right now? And it took us like a minute to get our act together. Finally, people start turning cameras on. I've got, I actually had a Pulsar monocular thermal that we were also using. And like, I powered the thing up and I'm finally scanning, but it's like the initial moment you hear what sounds like wood knocks and rocks being thrown. And then you're just kind of like, okay, what's going on? We start laughing. And then it kicks in like, okay, this is actually going on, because you're trying to make sense of it. I mean, you're out there looking for Bigfoot. What are the chances you get something like that happen? And again, I'm not saying that was Bigfoot. We don't know. We never saw what did it. But whatever it was, it caught us with our pants down as we're, joking around and telling impressions and just doing like normal campfire stuff. So that was funny. And yeah, Brian says that's how he felt during his wood knock encounter too. So it's just like one of those common denominators. I think plenty of people have probably had that happen to them.
Dude. And that's why I want to talk to Rob. Like, you got to put me in touch with Rob, man. I want to have a conversation with him.
He's a good dude for sure.
And he is a good dude. I can tell that. And I want to talk to that guy 100%.
Good point, Tristan. Always have audio recorders ready. Tristan knows that very well.
Yeah, my mind has been persuaded a bit on audio over the past several years, but even more so now.
Just always
because you guys put audio recorders out, right? Kind of walked away.
We had like 7 different audio recorders at any given time running. I mean, it was crazy. We have so much audio, like it's been so difficult and you have to get them all on the same date. So we'll get one that'll say like 2001, which is like a factory setting. So then you're like, oh crap. So is this the same audio? So even though that's the case, I just recommend running audio regardless. You run video and audio, but definitely do audio too. Just in general. So
my mind has been changed. I'm like, it adds something to the story or the narrative, at least, if you capture something. So
if you can get audio and video, I mean, even better, but audio is a great place if you can't do one or the other. Again, preferably do both, but yeah.
It's all right. Hey, look, Alex, we'll get him. Get him on video, bro. We'll get them on video.
That's right place, right time.
That's for a different time.
Still the way I look at it. The right place, the right time with the right gear. And I mean, I think it'll happen eventually. But we'll see.
Got to move on past the parrot.
Yep.
You guys, you guys are good pilots, so I trust you with advanced thermal in the air because you already know piloting skills. You're getting great cinematic. Fuck,
Yeah.
freaking humpback whales, man! Come on, like you guys are doing it. So I trust your skills. You got to up the game with the thermal.
Yeah, for sure. That's a big area. Just in general, like I
Yeah,
said, when it comes to
ingrained.
even yeah, even handhelds, like just thermals are far better in my opinion than IR. So couple them both, obviously, but thermal drone is definitely there's some ones that are pretty impressive. Like I said, the one that I saw, that bear footage from Bluff Creek, was pretty impressive.
Yeah,
So
it's a yeah.
there's different tools, and I think as the tech gets better, it'll be more accessible. Because I mean, even like 5, 6 years ago, thermals were not really. You couldn't just buy one on Amazon just to have fun with it in the woods.
Oh
Under
no,
five
yeah,
hundred dollars way.
6 years ago, I had to buy a certain kind of drone and put a certain kind of camera through a specialty, you know, like a specialty person that could marry those two technologies.
Right.
Basically.
Exactly.
Now it's all in one. It is right there, bam, in your face. It's like it's powerful. It's more powerful than it was 6 years ago. The pallets are amazing.
And 6 years from now, imagine what it's going to be like.
Exactly. So
yeah, I think it'll definitely be interesting to see how things go. But that's the story of what we experienced out there, and that's what happened out there. And again,
I love it, dude.
I don't think there's any sensationalism needed when that's exactly what's been going on. Just absolutely.
I love it. Like you hooked me. It was a breath of fresh air. I will say that. I think that's why you hooked me. It was a breath of fresh air. Shocker. It came from you. And I can't wait to part 2. So everybody check it out. Let's get dozens of more views on Small Town Monsters. Let's get dozens of more views. It'll be interesting.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. I mean, again, I'm glad I was able to catch it, but Tristan let me know, so somebody would have let me know.
I had a feeling because call it what it is, when I start talking about people on my show, I conjure them up. So yeah. I don't know. Maybe I should start conjuring up like other people. But we'll see. Thanks for being here, man. I appreciate your being here and talking to me about this because I think, obviously, I wanted to bounce off, the creator or one of the creators, right? Of this really compelling documentary, man, that is a people story in a great, interesting area. And there's something to learn there. There's an angle. It's not sauce, it's an angle. So
that's a good quote.
So thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thanks for having me on. And definitely, I know I'm going to be talking on a few other programs as well about this. I'm doing Joe's show coming up here soon, as well as Jeff Pine Island's show too. So
I did not know
other
that.
ones too. So yeah, there's other. I've done a few other podcasts.
I did not know that.
I did Bigfoot Crossroads the other day.
Yeah.
I did Alasquatch actually, which if you guys want to go here, I guess I go check out Alasquatch because Larry Beans Baxter actually has interviews with Rob Ray and others because he's been going to the property since I think last summer. So he has like a lot of insider knowledge about the cabin and that place too. So
please save the juicy stuff for those shows. So I'm going to get accused of robbing the topic. It's just something I came across today that I was actually able to watch that I was passionate about. So please save the juicy stuff for their shows.
Oh no, I'm telling you, like on my schedule, I've literally got like all these different shows that I'm going on. There's like a ton of ones on my schedule. So because people have been asking me even before it came out, because I sent out like a thing letting people do screeners, and people do reviews if they wanted to check it out beforehand. This
And
was like
so to be
weeks ago,
clear,
so.
to be clear, Alex, like I never invited you on here.
No, yeah.
You reached
I mean,
out to me and you were like, "Hey, you're doing a show about my shit. Like, I want to talk about it." Like, right?
yeah, and credit to Tristan. I mean, Tristan messaged me on Facebook
Yeah.
and was like, "Hey, Pat's doing a review of your show. He's wondering if you can come on." And I'm like, "Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll definitely pop in." So props to Tristan
Yeah.
for that. But I'm sure somebody, Brian or somebody else, because I got a lot of people that are friends in the chat, they probably would have let me know, or I would have caught it afterwards. But I'm stuck here in front of the computer. It was literally happened to be right when I was running out to the store, and then got home when it started. So glad we could make it happen.
Yeah. Well, me too.
So
And yeah, just for the record, yeah, like I haven't talked to Alex in 4 months,
yeah,
so
I haven't talked in a while.
yeah. I just wanted to talk about this because it meant something to me. Yeah, it was actually a gripping thing that happened that doesn't happen often with me or anything Bigfoot related,
Yeah,
So
there's a lot of garbage out there, unfortunately.
yeah, I felt I felt this was worth talking about. And again, not like I'm gonna promote it out the yin yang. That's gonna make a difference to y'all's views. I don't care. It was worth talking about, and I want to talk to Rob Roy. So put me in touch with Rob. I need
Sure.
to talk to him, man.
Yeah, he's a trip. But yeah, no, like I said, one of the awesome things about it is, I mean, it's going outside of the Bigfoot community. So I've gotten people messaging me that, are not into the Bigfoot topic, that are like, I had this experience in the Kenai Peninsula, or I used to live there. And it's like fishing, because you're getting all these sort of things,
Yeah.
all these different leads and stuff. So it's really cool for me seeing how it's going into different communities. But yeah, because I get frustrated with the topic too, and some of the insanity that's involved in Bigfooting and like the social aspect of it.
Yeah.
And then I'll get something that pops up, like somebody shares me a story of some encounter they had somewhere, even if it's in my local area, or with it has to do with something like Alaska, and it's just like, this is why I'm into it. This is the kind of stuff that keeps me going, not the drama online and all the usual shenanigans.
Right.
So
Well,
I hope I
you're
can
doing pretty
inspire
good,
some
man.
people to at least inspire some people to get out in the woods too, and just enjoy themselves, because
Yeah.
that's what I like to do most of the time on these kinds of things. So
All right. Well, we've gotten to the point in the night where everybody's just going to look at my ceiling.
phones falling asleep.
Yeah, it's the technical difficulties.
No
Thanks
worries.
for being here. Oh, God. See what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, no, I hear you.
I can't. I'm just going to wrap it up. I have to go to bed anyway. But
Sounds good. Well, Ken, thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for being here, man. I appreciate you 100%, man. And I want to talk to Rob. Put me in touch with Rob, please, Alex, as we drop the phone one more time. Let's see. I think we're good. Put me in touch with Rob. Yeah, I definitely want to talk to him.
Okay.
And good job. Great job. And my review, 2 thumbs up, guys.
Appreciate it. Glad you enjoyed it. I mean,
on the Alaskan Coastal Bigfoot thingy, Sasquatch.
Complicated
thingy,
name,
they're
I
out
know.
there thingy, doing a thingy.
The name I could have made it a little snappier, but it kind of made sense.
No, it's all good. Like 2 thumbs up, man, for whatever that's worth.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, I love hearing what people have to say, and even if people don't like it, I mean, I'm all for constructive criticism that isn't, trolling or just maliciousness, which there's plenty of too. But I mean, that's fine with anything online. You're going to get that. So yeah, I'm always open to suggestions and what people think, and if they have any better ideas or anything, or they think we're idiots, that too, that's fine too. Whatever.
Better ideas. Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Good luck. Good luck going to Alaska and getting a film of the humpback whale. Good luck with that.
It's doable. We can do it again.
So thanks for being here, man. I'm gonna wrap it up. Yeah. I'm kind of gonna do a hard ending. I'll play an outro, but I'm done. Yeah. And Alex, man, like, yeah, let me know when part 2 drops.
Oh, for sure.
I'll bump it up. Like, I'll promote it, like, for whatever it's worth. Again, dozens of more views. It's got to mean something, right? Um, no, good job, man. Keep like you do you. Don't let anything I said tonight influence how you edit the next, portion of the.
Oh, it's mostly already done, so it's
Okay,
it's
good.
almost in the can. So,
All right, good,
but yeah,
good. Then I'll take that, man.
alrighty.
All right, well, we're out. Thanks for being here, guys and gals, and like and subscribe, please. And we'll talk to you later.